lock him in the early game where that's rewarded in this current meta, you see that dominance evolution.
Absolutely, and especially with the jungle changes that came in, he was already the highest farming jungler. It was actually around 13 CSD in those first games with Diplex. It was a lot less ganking oriented and a lot more just farming, but ever since playing with EMENES, his CSD has actually gone down, but his kills have gone up because he's been able to play that more aggressive style. But now counter jungling's back. Suddenly you're able to do the same damage in the enemy jungle. The fact that you can have more XP taken, that unlocks a lot of late game carry threats, because Blaber can actually be, you know, a Nocturne type player who's actually going to start side laning and making a lot of plays happen.
And when a team has a jungler that knows how to carry as well as facilitate, then you know the possibilities are endless on how they can really react to those changes in the jungle going from this patch and beyond. Of course, Immortals on the other side, even with the difficulty of their week coming in, still looking to play that spoiler and refine that style. The Viego being locked in alongside the Nautilus, that has drawn up some more attention, and Fleshy specifically giving that attention as well.
Yeah, Fleshy's been great on the Nautilus, had a good game on it yesterday. Kenvi on the Kindred banned out, the Graves banned out, two of his best champions. It doesn't seem like he has like a clear thing behind those two range marksmen, which are his bread and butter champions, and hopefully he can start to pop off a little bit more, because then that, if you can, it's like this, you just got to break through this ceiling of if they can ban one or two things and kneecap you, then you're in trouble. But if you can have a third champ that you're relatively the same level of proficiency on, suddenly it's not worth those other bans and you start getting your champs a lot more. C9 have just been all early game recently, and they continue that trend here. Probably going to be a poke Varus in the bot lane. We've seen a lot of that recently. You have the Jayce as well, the Elise. This is one of those comps where C9 is going to try and steamroll their opponents.
Elise spends so much time in lane, and that's exactly what you want to see. Just always trying to make those plays possible on the Rift. Immortals response right here, locking in Kalista. Tactical, actually in the earlier parts of his career in the LCS when he was on Team Liquid, part of that notoriety came from his Kalista play. So going to something on which he has that comfort and try to build upon the success that he and Fleshy found yesterday.
He's definitely a feast or famine player and can take over a game and make it all about him. And so this Nautilus combination, if you can get some ganks down there early on, he can absolutely pop off. We'll see what C9 want to match it with, because there is this kind of mismatch right now with supports and mid laners. So as you can see, Immortals actually targeting the Yone, something else that EMENES has been playing. A flex pick potentially with the Jayce. Of course, Fudge can pilot that one as well. So that's actually a good point. I just caught myself. I'm like, that's not necessarily going in. We've seen so much Jayce mid, I just assumed it was going there, but it is still a flex pick. And they, of course, are trying to find the support to pair it with. The Heimerdinger coming back, it feels like, in prio a little bit, despite the fact that it dropped off after the first couple of weeks of the LCS.
Yeah, I kind of want to see, especially over the next couple weeks, how teams do respond to some of those shifts in the support position. For instance, Ashe getting a little bit of her power siphoned away. That leaves such an opening for support players that want to lean into that style, because they will shift away from what is now trying to be encouraged as a less dominant and less spot-taking support.
Yeah, absolutely the case. We'll see what Zven ends up pulling out, who he's been having a good split himself. Didn't touch on him too much when we were talking earlier about the entire team, but he is rallying up for, I think it's his first support All-Pro. I don't think, did he get an All-Pro nod last summer? I can't quite remember.
I don't think he did, if I recall correctly. Now I want to look it up.
Yeah, we'll look that up, but on pace for right now. Bolulu getting one of his signature champions, the Bolulu Zoe coming in big. They banned out one of the options in the Vel'Koz, something that people are not actually comfortable playing against in the TSM game, even though they won that one. They talked about how annoying it was to play in the Vel'Koz. They even called it Bel'Veth because they didn't know that. So Zoe at least has been in the meta for years, and I think players are a lot more comfortable. So even though it is one of Bolulu's signature champions, at least you have some experience against it.
Every Bolulu game I've casted both in the NACL and the LCS has been a Zoe game.
Oh.
So
you, yeah.
Quite familiar.
Yeah, you'll be ready for all the
But I love it, though. It's so fun.
It's super fun, and there's a lot of good targets right now. The Braum locked in kind of in response to that, it feels like, wanting to be able to step in front of these paddle stars if any of the squishier members of the team get hit.
Yeah, because one of the things I mentioned when Bolulu did lock Zoe when he was first coming into the LCS is the fact that I love diving into the way players think when they're approaching certain champions. And some Kenvi love coming in from the audience.
I'm not sure what Mahal.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna read it, and then I looked and was like, I'm
what
not
am I about
entirely
to say?
sure. So
I'm
going to acknowledge the love. So yeah, thank you. Maybe we'll learn that later on. But yeah, lots of love to individual players on Immortals that are starting to build up here. All right, a little spice here locked in the end for some power in the top lane.
Yeah, the Fiora slammed for revenge to play into the Ksante top. They're pretending like they'll send the Ksante mid. I don't think they'll end up doing that. I'm sure we'll see that flex up there in a second. But kind of laying down the gauntlet against Fudge, who's been one of the better carry players in the meta here, trying to take it into the tank. And of course, we've heard quite a few people talk about how it is a good matchup for the Fiora. Should be something that he can maybe get ahead on. And Revenge has never really struggled at getting ahead himself. It's about translating those leads with the rest of his team. We'll see if they can get that seen very often.
Yeah, so now that we know for sure this is the direction that we are going, Cloud9 sticking with what they tend to do, and in these final moments of the regular season, bringing out different picks. What do you think about this decision?
Oh, I mean, it's obviously a response to the Fiora lock-in at the last second. I don't think that they initially wanted to do this, but given the fact that they composition is roughly the same, where it's, of course, double physical top side of the map combined with the Elise, it's still going to work fine. I think the difference is, instead of having pressure around mid, where you would maybe have Blaber playing more around the Jayce mid to try and unlock map movements to the bot or top lane, here it's going to be a little bit harder to unlock mid and play around mid, I assume. I don't know for sure. Guess what? Never seen Ksante versus Zoe mid lane here. I'll admit that. So I could be wrong, but I assume Zoe should have prio through the early lane phase just with the range advantage and potential pushing power, and that will mean that Blaber will have a little bit less explosive in an early game, I think, because the mid is such a critical position for him.
Mid critical on both sides, same with jungle and Kenvi. Speaking of which, the producers just told me and I already forgot. Tag along for I love you. That's what the sign said.
Oh, what language was that?
I am not sure. We are slowly piecing together.
Someone translated it, so I assume we'll have to see. And there's this mid lane. Ksante early on able to get a quick push off there using the bone plating to absorb some damage, and Q spam on the wave. We'll see how long he can keep that little trade pattern up. But otherwise, yeah, I think we'll keep the camera locked here for a little bit as we all learn the Zoe Ksante matchup.
Tagalog Filipino. So Tagalog Filipino is the language that
I mean, it makes sense.
the sign was
Filipino,
in,
so yeah, of course.
I love when I come in and I learn new things. That's what it's all about. Not only did we learn something new about the sign, we're learning something new about a matchup we haven't seen before in this game, courtesy of the mid laners and Cloud9 making that switcheroo. So that we have focused a bit on this particular matchup, but I do just want to get the quick check on who you're vibing with more in terms of the drafts that were brought forward.
Well, it's obviously a little bit biased, and it's hard to separate teams from the drafts because Cloud9 has been so dominant, and normally I'm a little concerned about, oh, hold on here, as some aggression from Fleshy.
Then getting some hits. Fleshy making sure to try and get these early lockdowns in the bot lane. I mean, that's something that they were working on, their synergy between both Fleshy and Tactical yesterday that was coming through and rewarded, and looking for more of the same.
Yeah, that was a nice little trade that they won in the early levels there. You can see Blaber going for that invade, but he was spotted out. So that actually means that Immortals knows that there's no pressure or cover coming down to this bot side. And so Tactical can play right at the turret and start getting chip damage down here while Blaber does get his counter jungling in. We just talked about that being more prevalent in the meta now, but that does mean that the bot lane can play without any concern.
No heal, no flash for Berserker from this point on out as Blaber continues to venture into the jungle over on this top side. Kenvi also in the vicinity. A little bit of sight, though, on both ends.
Yeah, this will be covered out for the most part by Kenvi, both junglers ending up on the top side of the map. We were talking about what does this change with the flex pick coming into the mid lane. It does mean that, of course, Blaber wants to play around the top side of the map, but it's a little more telegraphed in that sense, and so Kenvi could be up there and cover it. Obviously, a little touch and go there because Blaber was fishing for him in the jungle to try and cut him off beforehand, but now he has to go back to his own side of the map. Blaber's going to finish up his top clear as Kenvi makes his way down to the bot side.
All right, all the while as Blaber continues to get stronger and stronger, being on this Elise, we want to see where he is able to make that first effective play for Cloud9 to play into the aggression that they have been building upon in the early game. Whereas for Immortals, I do want to see what Kenvi is able to do on the Viego if later in team fighting he's able to get those pop-offs and get into a comfortable and strong position.
Well, I think this is a really interesting setup for them because they have pressure in the bot lane based off that initial trade. They forced out both sums from Berserker while only costing their own ignite. They're going to go again!
Hook onto one, the root effective, and the E-pop by Fleshy. A good setup. First blood for Kenvi off of this flash, and then at the corner end of that arrow, a nice double double kill in effect.
Nice snipe by Kenvi there, showing some proficiency on the marksman champion after stealing the soul from Berserker. And that's exactly what I was about to say. The early pressure that they had in that bot lane, that initial great trade set up by Fleshy, allows the gank to come through. And I was about to say combo with the fact that Bolulu should have control of the mid lane against the Ksante. We'll have to see after he teleports back in, but this could be something where they can maybe make some roams down there and revenge. You know, you got this counter pick you thought in the top side. Guess what? You're playing weak side Fiora, but that's okay if you can actually keep making these plays happen in the bot side.
Okay. Immortals making them plays, and that's so significant considering that you were just mentioning during draft how stable Revenge has been, that his play has been commended not just by his opponents on Cloud9, but the league at large. So when you have a support that's able to step into this team with the comfort of the Nautilus, on which he is really showing that playmaking ability, then all of a sudden you have more impact from both sides of the map to set them up.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting whenever like a wrench gets thrown into a draft like this, it tests a different skill set, because a lot of the time what you're practicing is repeatability of the lane phase, making sure that if you tell your team, hey, this matchup's going to go this way, it actually does go that way. And then sometimes you end up in this situation where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try and make plays. Or, you know, we wanted to play through Revenge potentially, but now we're actually playing through bot side because they flipped the Jayce up top. And here you see it, just another incredible hook by Fleshy, sneaking it past the minion line, just in front of the Braum as Zven stepped forward. The fact they could get it on top of Berserker. Nice follow-up by Kenvi with the flash stun, grabbing the soul. And then even though Zven flashes away, he gets a couple stacks before the E damage procs. So he gets the procs there, and then the Q still just barely in range to tag him, just the very tip of it, hitting Braum.
So good lead that Kenvi was able to set up here with the bot lane off of that aggression that Fleshy had thrown. The response from Cloud9 is to take this first dragon of the game.
Not bad to sneak that one away, given the fact that you should be down pressure in the bot side. Immortals are going to try and cut them off, making their way back down here. It's a 3v2 until Tactical can get there.
So scary for a moment coming over the wall, but you got a lane right there to be able to retreat to, so a disengage. But yes, Cloud9 taking the bot side neutral objective off of the pressure that Immortals was dishing out is a way for them to keep things fairly even-keeled.
Yeah, a very nice sneak way to stop any potential bot side snowball of that objective. Looking at the comps, it's hard to say exactly who scales better. C9's comp is quite fragile. You do have the Braum and the Ksante at the front line and a lot of poke damage from behind. But, you know, it's not like an insane team fight combo. It's a lot about pick potential. If you can chain CC someone with a cocoon into a Varus ultimate or something like that. Whereas I think the scaling for Immortals might not be quite as good, but it's an easier team fight to maybe execute on if you can land a hook by Fleshy or something like that and just chain CC, blow somebody up.
Very difference-making CC that they have, especially with that Nautilus. And for Cloud9, that early dragon take also impacts the speed of the game, the pace of it. So already getting those stacked up. Pretty even in farm here across the mid lane between EMENES and Bolulu, with an advantage building for Fudge over on that top side. Things to consider when you're looking over at Kenvi, who's sitting on those 2 kills that he had acquired prior.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Kenvi can do with those. He's kind of the main focal point now, getting that early and going on to his first buffs again, getting his second clear down. We're going to end up around the bot side. I want to see if Bolulu can get unlocked and actually start trying to land some bubbles with this bot lane, or if this Ksante can actually kind of keep him trapped in lane, which is that, I assume, the primary objective for him.
Yeah, it very much seems like Bolulu hasn't had any opportunity to go elsewhere, match up against EMENES, but can be throwing down the Herald Path just to contribute to some of that pressure. But that is one thing when you're looking at Bolulu and his ability to roam and affect the rest of the map with Kenvi, you're always looking at the mid-jungle synergy and how they can build advantages for the rest of the team. And with the bot lane still really pulling some of that aggression out of Fleshy, I want to see how they're able to collaborate. Yeah,
but with Kenvi showing mid lane, that kind of telegraphs a window for Blaber to take this down the Rift Herald, so they might sneak away the second neutral objective as well. Kenvi not in range to stop the smite, but can you maybe force a fight?
He's going in, stun up on Blaber, the rotation from Revenge, who's ready to follow up, a blast cone for the separation, and a stun response from Blaber with plenty of damage to follow up from Fudge means no kill, no go.
Wow, that was such a nice E there by Blaber. I'm pretty sure that was blind to make sure that Revenge could not actually chase him down. Of course, he did see him a second ago right before he blast coned out of there, but made sure that there was no actual chase down sequence to follow. Does cost Kenvi his flash and doesn't give up any sums on himself, and also buys space for Fudge to push down this top side.
because he's able to shove that in. What had amounted to about an 800 gold lead for Immortals is now, which while not necessarily the most significant, has slightly dwindled because of the way they're able to push over on this top side. Kenvi backing. Revenge can't stand off against this plate taking by Fudge and Blaber, who can keep up on this pressure.
That was, I thought he was going to drop the Herald there, potentially try and snowball Fudge even harder. It was an interesting kind of cancel on his recall for Blaber to wait for Kenvi to exit the top side of the map and then go for the turret pressure. Ends up just helping Fudge get a plate. Looks like they actually want to save that for another opportunity for the Rift Herald drop.
Yeah, maybe keep a hold of it. You're always looking at places like mid. That's a neutral opportunity to try and break some kind of advantage.
Yeah, I was just surprised because you don't have Cryo bot lane. They haven't had it all game. Mid lane has been kind of even. EMENES does get a push occasionally, but I'm not quite sure if he'll actually be able to break the mid turret with a shove. So maybe they'll just make their way up topside and finish it off again. Again, Blaber has actually passed up there. Maybe going to meet Kenvi for a second time in the river.
Focused on Scuttle right now and can be back in the vicinity after getting his back. So still an advantage for Blaber when you're looking at the jungler head-to-head, approaching, and now knows that Kenvi is here for the response, but still so much aggro from the minions directly onto the tower. They're going for this onto Revenge. Bolulu and EMENES making their rotations from the mid lane, starting to have that impact known by the mid laners if they're able to get some kind of connect. A long sleep. Can you follow up?
EMENES walked in front of the Battlestar path, so even though the Battlestar was still on its backwards trajectory, EMENES was able to block that. Now they might get a dive.
The responding stun onto Kenvi for a moment, but all the while the 2v2 is strong in the bot side. Fleshy trying to get out of there. Zven goes down, but the response stun tactical eliminated at the hand of Berserker, who flashes forward for the double kill, neutralizing the advantages created by Immortals down bot with all of the action from the junglers up top.
Berserker finds his revenge for that initial kill there. They end up taking Zven down, but had to commit so many resources to it. The fact that the Q tag was on top of Tactical means that he's going to get finished off. And then Fleshy was in like this do-si-do of, should I try and help or not? He didn't have any cooldowns up. You'll see this again quickly here as they land the ult, it looks like, on the Tactical. Nice counter engage by Fleshy. And then here they just focus down onto Zven so much. It takes so long to actually kill him with that Unbreakable up that when they re-engage, Berserker's just free hitting this entire time. Able to see there with the passive proc already, get him off, and then Fleshy, like we said, unsure if he should follow or not.
Goes down in the final moments to dish some more gold into the pockets. A nice praise here from Cloud9 in the mid lane.
Uh-oh, we're back to a fight though.
Right back into it. Revenge goes in, a stun and immediate burn down of Blaber, but the root is good. A hook on forward and brings the Berserker into the center of it all. And the kill to complete. Some action from Immortals, a double at that, right ahead of this dragon. It's a fight immediately upon returning to life.
Wow, Immortals are not wasting any time. Fudge, of course, was not there, able to finish off the top turret and get a lot of chip down on this second turret. Probably going to grab his inner here to cement his own lead up to about a 50 CS lead as well. So Fudge feeling really good, but Immortals getting that slight answer back, the neutral objective of the dragon, as well as a couple kills for themselves. A nice hook by Fleshy there. And here, C9 are going to collapse, but should be able to get out.
Cloud9 did have eyes on it, but Kenvi making sure to secure. That does break into the stacking. So now Immortals alleviate some pressure later on to try and contest on the neutrals, because we're not quite going to get into that soul point territory just yet for Cloud9. But Fudge getting nice and strong off of that top side push.
Yeah, it's such an interesting game and how Immortals have been approaching it. A little disappointed that they had lost both neutral objectives. Obviously, it's hard to get the Rift Herald with how much pressure Fudge has had. But then they've kind of gotten black holed into Fudge, where he has so much pressure that they try and defend it, but you're still not strong enough to actually fight that pressure off, as opposed to trying to play more around their winning bot lane. I think they probably should have invested more time there. But then they still won the fight around the dragon. So, you know, Fudge has continued to be accelerated. They haven't really slowed him down at all. But on the plus side, at least Tactical has gotten off the ground and is having one of his good games.
Off the back of that acceleration for Cloud9, a 1.6k gold lead for the team overall. And yes, Immortals can still look at the individuals on their team to maybe execute in the fights in the mid game. If Tactical is able to follow up on a lock from Fleshy, for instance, or if Kenvi gets a pop off.
Yeah, but Fudge individually is up 2,200 gold, so more than the gold difference itself, which means that yes, the Jayce is insanely fed and the team overall is ahead, but if you isolate the Jayce, it's actually Immortals in the lead. So you can keep kind of playing this weak side Fiora gameplay. It's not obviously not what a Fiora wants to do, but realistically, if Jayce is able to be controlled a little bit, and you can find these engages like we just saw at that dragon fight. Immortals might actually be able to kind of like handshake the pressure away like that.
What an interesting dynamic to have as we just pressed over that 14-minute mark, thus ending the stage of the game. Revenge, a bit of a blast coming in from Fudge, tries to respond with a repose, but Blaber and Zven are here for some additional support on to the top lane side. Down goes Revenge, up goes the advantage of Cloud9's Fudge.
Yeah, just no vision on the top side of the map there, really. And Immortals with Revenge extending into that long lane goes down. The rest of the team was more focused on the bot and mid side. This does mean that Blaber will get his second Rift Girl of the game pretty much uncontested. Meanwhile, Immortals are kind of giving that up and trying to work down the turret, but it's Ksante underneath the turret. See if they can force him back. Looks like it.
Now finally getting the reward for some of that earlier pressure on the bot side just because of the way the lanes have been unlocked and the rotations from Cloud9. So Immortals creating an advantage for themselves when Cloud9 had worked so hard to have that top side under their control. Very difficult for Immortals to grant themselves vision in response there.
A lot of tweets about kind of the bread and butter champions for Immortals. They called out Bolulu Zoe and Fleshy's Nautilus, but even Tactical's Kalista was one of his best champions when he was making a name for himself on Team Liquid back in the day. This was one of the champions he had some insane plays on, and so this is a comp that they should be relatively comfortable piloting. Kenvi's Viego has also looked quite good, so as they move into the mid-late game portions here, they should know how to find the right angles to take these team fights, whereas C9 is kind of on the other end where they have this slapdash comp where suddenly EMENES is playing Ksante. I hope someone checks his solo queue, lets us know, like, has he actually ever played this before, or was he just taking one for the team completely?
A very different approach to this game from a drafting perspective, and made all the more interesting when you consider it where they are in the lead themselves, as this Rift Herald drops into the mid turret from Cloud9, second afforded to them of this game, and the second drop down of it.
Did chip it quite low, and during that time forced the rest of Immortals to cover that mid lane push, and during that time you had Fudge isolated down the bot lane, grabbing yet another turret for himself. So even though he still doesn't have a kill, this Jayce is so strong now, 2.8k gold up himself.
Getting real nasty, getting real strong as a firepower force for Cloud9. As they progress through the later stages of this game, officially breaking open that mid turret, which always enables greater map movement for the squad.
Yeah, all outers down. They still have that one inner taken in the top as well, so 4 turrets down. And so far, looking very good for C9. A little less explosive of a game than we've seen from them recently, but showing that they have more in the tank than just scrapping out and winning a ton of skirmishes. The objective control has been quite good. I think their map movements have been very good this game. And so they are taking a more smothering approach to it. And eventually Fudge will group up with his team. And we've seen, even in team situations, Jayce is no joke. Palafox has had a monster game on it as well. There's a reason everyone's playing Jayce, and you're starting to see it this week. I know there's been some games. North American fans are starved by Jayce. It's a good champion.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, Mark. They've all been great. All been great.
The NA Jayce memes might be dying this weekend.
Maybe.
A couple NA players looking pretty good.
That is a meme that I would not mind dying.
Yeah, I know a lot of people push back Fudge, Osher, NA, but he's NA now.
Fully claimed, and not just by the LCS, but I think that one thing that's been so enjoyable about seeing the way Fudge has grown as a player and sheer dominance is we get some action right now, though. Kalista activating the ultimate to throw back in for the knockup of Root onto Zven, who's getting marked below 50% HP, and the long depth charge onto Blaber, but they take down Fleshy, and with no support here to protect them, C9 see the go button. Zven getting on out of there with the flash, but still alive to support the rest of the team, getting asleep. On to 1 for Cloud9. Bolulu with a pop onto Fudge. No more deaths to follow, just the one of the Immortal supports.
Immortals getting some poke damage down, but C9 winning the fight because yet again, Zven is the target that absorbs most of the damage early on in the fight, baits Immortals into focusing him down and buys space for the rest of C9 to find that initial kill. That's going to get them their second dragon of the game as well.
Second dragon done, 3.8k gold lead for Cloud9, and considering their turret advantage, they're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game because there's so much explosive long-range damage for both teams available here. The supports kind of bump into each other, and it's a lot easier for Braum to end up tanky, drop that unbreakable down, make it very difficult to actually get finished off. And so Fleshy got chunked out initially in that sequence. They had already used the Kalista ult to save him. A nice snipe by Berserker, did not find the kill. I'm pretty sure that actually went down to the ignite of Zven, but it was that little last chunk of damage that Berserker found. able to finish off that kill.
That's one thing when you're looking at Nautilus in particular, and when shield is up versus down, and just being able to get that last pop off of the long range of Cloud9. But the ultimates being so key too, right? You see Zven throw down that Glacial Fissure, the response tactical being able to avoid it, but still not too bloody in the end. Pressing over 4K now for Cloud9 as they ventured into the territory that they have had great control of over the entirety of this game because of Fudge's ability to clear. Of course, now it's EMENES getting the opportunity to shore up more on his farming. That was keeping Bolulu locked in the early game and thus hasn't necessarily had as much of an impact on this Zoe as in other games, though still building up, still proving to be a threat if you find the right target and follow up.
Yeah, you could see him landing some nice poke damage in that kind of chase down sequence there to make sure that C9 could not just keep face rolling through the team fight. But it is still very dicey here as C9's comp does have so much quick potential, like we said, a lot of poke as well with the Jayce that becomes dangerous in these vision battles.
Then into some trouble, throws down the Glacial Fissure to try the redirect, but Fleshy in with the hook is good. A flash forward, Kenvi going for the kill, manages to get one right off of this Heartbreaker. And Immortals coming out on top in the skirmish.
Almost got out there by Zven, but Fleshy made sure to shut that down. They get that kill. Almost made it out. Defend that vision control. This is what I was just saying. Both these teams have to be so careful as they go to drop these wards in this jungle. Both teams have so much ability to catch people out. And there, Zven was just a little bit of a straggler left alone in the jungle.
Easy one to pop once you have multiple members there to be able to contest. Some damage just back. Look at that shock blast! Fudge, what are you doing, bro? Revenge, no more.
Oh, Revenge was trying to be so cheeky. Hold up, not done here. Teleport coming in.
Kenvi here to join Bolulu. Fudge pushed up. He's just rocking under this turret, rocking all the way, seeing what Cloud9 can do with the attention he is grabbing from Kenvi, and Bolulu knows that he is not much longer for this world. Way downtown smash from Bolulu, who gets on out of there, finally taking it down the top laner of Cloud9, who all the while's on the Baron.
Yeah, excellent job by Fudge getting so many resources down, taken towards him. That means it's a free Baron for Cloud9, all off the back of Revenge getting solo killed.
And Cloud9, when you're looking at some of the advantages of this team, the fact that multiple players have been together for quite a while, they seem pretty distinct in following the calls that are made. I can imagine Fudge saying, well, they're all coming for me, make something happen out of it. And Cloud9 do exactly that, now working with this Baron buff for the next few minutes.
Cloud9 looking so good, maybe going to push their win streak even further here. EMENES dropped the first game that he showed up in the LCS, but since then has not lost again. Here's Fudge going for a recall, and Revenge thinks he's going to be cheeky, interrupting it with the Q here at the last possible second after warding it out. And he does get a nice riposte, but then that baits him into thinking that he can actually win this fight, gets 2 vital procs of his ultimate, then realizes, whoa, I don't win this! He gets solo killed, and then with that pressure that you're going to have from that solo kill, the rest of Immortals needs to make a decision. Do we try and stop Fudge, or do we continue making sure they can't do the Baron? They go for Fudge, gives the Baron away for free.
22.5 minutes into the game, still wearing purple for Cloud9, and the margins at which Immortals can look towards victory start becoming more and more slim, with no control over the map and just singular kills being able to dish advantages to their opposition. But now looking to defend over here across mid and mitigate any of the efforts of Cloud9 to really blast through across these lanes.
Yep, just pushing the mid and bot lane at the exact same time. I think they teleported EMENES back in there as well. They had a ward that just got slept out by Immortals. They could see exactly where the rotation was coming from. They grabbed that turret. Now they're moving back through the jungle to the mid lane one, finishing off all the inners here.
There goes the tier 2, and Cloud9 continue with their pursuits. 20 seconds until the next dragon spawns, and considering the map positioning, Cloud9 leaving no opening for Immortals to try to make a play of defense or beyond on this map right now. The wave is thinning though, so Cloud9 just poking them down as much as possible to get them off.
They were able to get the ult out of Berserker for free and then disengage that situation. So if C9 keep pushing up, if they're able to land a little bit of poke, Immortals might find a window to engage onto them here, but they're grouped up. It's very hard to get through EMENES and Zven.
I think Cloud9 making sure to even throw these wards over on the opposite sides here so that the rotations from Kenvi can be more slim. Here we go, the Glacial Fissure thrown on down, the Silence and the Fate's Call for Tactical to throw his support right back in there, and Zven marked down at half, but that's a Braum, so you're A-okay with it. They bring their attention over to the inhibitor themselves instead. They see the path to victory. They see an angle to try to kill off Tactical, who flashes out of there to keep himself on in it. The last stand from Immortals off of multiple members of Cloud9, but they do have to worry about how low EMENES and Zven are, and the rest of the squad, pretty much everyone except for Berserker. The follow-up from Immortals to just push them off, but still so many resources granted by Cloud9, even on the back of this pursuit. Woo! Trying to go for it. Kenvi stepping up big, stepping on down into the grave. Cloud9 out with an inhib and a death onto the enemy jungler. See if Revenge can make something happen coming over from this riverside. Berserker's right in the back of the line and low enough for a hit, a flash over the wall. So now Revenge is looking for another target, but Cloud9 make him the target. A stun onto Bolulu as he gets himself on out of there. Immortals trying to make the flank play, but can't get any dub from it.
Cloud9 keep breaking Immortals' ankles. They're baiting them in over and over again. Bolulu thought he could find the kill. That gets Kenvi dead. Revenge tries to find the TP kill. He drops. Now Bolulu himself finished off Cloud9. It's the push that just won't end.
Again and again and again. A shock blast from downtown. Fudge with the hit, and there's only so many places that Immortals can go off of this. Cloud9 just taking a dragon for themselves as a prize for all that was just won in the battle.
What an insane sequence there, starting at the mid-push, breaking the inhibitor down, finding multiple kills, grabbing a Nexus turret, and then finding multiple exit kills. As Immortals, I see why they chased them down. You could see the angles. If, you were able to find that kill initially on the Berserker, you get the heal, but just a very nice reactive flash. Obviously, he had no idea this was coming. You see him start channeling the recall actually right here. Instantly gets the vital procs on him, finds the wall to flash away from. And with no flash on the Fiora, there's no way to follow that over. And then there's just so much CC in the rest of the team comp. You can see Revenge just gets exploded there. It was a good idea. I appreciate it, but C9 is just too clean.
Same. Thought it was the right play. The flash was unfortunate. And then here it just felt like Immortals were a bit kind of awkwardly deep into the lane, try to get something of solace, but Cloud9 keeping the pressure up.
This is one of those scrim game feels where there's just the fights never end. This is an extended sequence. Uh-oh.
Yep, the fight keeps
right back
going. And that's putting his body between the rest of the team and Immortals. There's not really any extended vision from Immortals for them to be able to corral Cloud9. So all Cloud9 do take down Nautilus, take down the enemy support, and we're seeing a repeat of the movement that we did just prior, pushing this wave up. They already took down one of the Nexus turrets. There's just half of another to go. Cloud9 coming into this super week with a vengeance, wanting to do all they can to claim that #1 spot, and Immortals just one by one, the pillars that stand between Cloud9 and making their statement on the week. 2-0 to start it off.
Cloud9 win yet again, pushing their win streak even further, up to 14-3 now. Sole possession of first place, closing in on the first spot for playoffs. Looking very good right now, and I have to say, the Ksante ends 0-0-5 in a 14-kill game, but secretly that flex pick unlocked the entire game plan for Cloud9. Fudge was able to take over that game with the flex pick Jayce. Doesn't happen without EMENES being willing to kind of eat the L in that matchup.
And what a time for Cloud9 to get practice on that flexibility ahead of playoffs.